memories you make and some you eat. All this week, we asked some very special food guests to focus on a special recipe tied to a specific memory. Today, we're thrilled to have our cake-making friend, cake-making queen, Courtney Rich, in the studio. No cakes in sight. We are making...
We're making mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. Yes.
Homemade mac and cheese. I grew up on this recipe. In fact, I remember going to friends' houses when I was little, and they'd have the box mac, which is actually what I use a ton too, but I would not eat it because I was like, this doesn't taste like mac and cheese. This is not my mom's homemade macaroni and cheese. Just made from scratch, but so easy.
Okay.
I have taught my kids to make it because it's only a few ingredients. It's actually adapted from Betty Crocker's cookbook.
Oh, good.
She uses a few extra ingredients that might chase your kids off flavor-wise. So we've just really kind of dialed it in to our favorites.
Betty's waving a spoon at them and they are running away.
They're running away. So, but we do add, I love adding the breadcrumbs.
Yes.
My kids love that, and toasting them. Avery is like, the more breadcrumbs, the better on her mac and cheese, right?
Yeah.
So we're like just gonna completely soak that in butter and then crisp it up. So I've already cooked the noodles. I mean, that's so easy, right? We're using classic macaroni and cheese, the noodles, right?
Yeah.
On the stove, we've melted some butter, and we're just doing a little bit of flour. This is gonna be our thickening agent.
Okay.
So with our butter and our flour, we're making like a little bit of a paste. And as it cooks down a little bit, it's gonna dissolve, you won't have any clumps. And as this thickens, and it doesn't take long, maybe turn my stove up just a little bit. Don't worry, I already burned butter and had to restart.
The studio was heating up.
Oh my gosh, it smells like brown butter in here, which would be tasty. So you can see how that kind of thickens. And then as you add your milk, and I would just do anything that is not skim milk in this. We want the fat and the creaminess. We are not looking for low-cal here when we're making mac and cheese.
Skip it sort of a meal.
No.
Look at these silicone cups. I love those.
Isn't that so fun? There's so many good ones at Orse and Gigi.
Fantastic.
It makes storing things just so easy,
these.
especially for the kids.
Yes.
Because they can squeeze and it feels like it just doesn't
It's got the
splash.
grippies. That's fantastic.
So as you're heating this up, it's gonna start to thicken. So while that does that, let's give it a second.
Yep.
And I'm gonna show you just the quick crumble that we're gonna put on top. And so you're just gonna take breadcrumbs. So on top of the mac and cheese I already have made is just your like classic breadcrumbs, plain.
Okay.
But if you love a little extra flavor, you can get the Italian flavored breadcrumbs and throw that on there.
Good idea.
So we like to mix it up here and there. So I'm just gonna add some melted butter, just a 1/4 cup, to a cup of breadcrumbs. So we have tons, and this is what's gonna go on top. So after we make the sauce, we mix the noodles in it. You're gonna put the noodles into your pan, a baking pan, a deep kind of dish baking pan, and then we're gonna sprinkle the buttered breadcrumbs on top, and then you just bake it until it browns on top. So it's nice and gooey on the inside.
So from stove to oven.
Oh yeah, so easy. Let's see if that will thicken. We'll turn it up.
I
was afraid because I burned the other butter.
So now you're overcautious. You're like, we'll stay at it too. It's so fun, and of course, I'm not surprised, but it's sort of fun and making me giggle to see you slip into like making mode instead of just baking mode. Like you're talking to me about a roux and a thickening agent, and these are things we don't talk about when we're piping frosting on cake.
Never. And that was things my mom, like I remember picking up on where she's like, okay, we're thickening, just even as a kid, because we made this so often. And one of my favorite variations.
What?
Okay, can you remember your like favorite, like what was your birthday meal that mom made you?
Oh yeah, cheesy chicken.
Cheesy chicken. Okay, so mine was basically this cheese sauce with the egg noodles and then ham. Slices of like ham.
Ham and cheese.
Yes!
Mac and ham and cheese.
And I mean, for years, all growing up through high school, it was, what do you want for your birthday? Oh, I want the ham and cheese casserole.
That's awesome.
And so that was my favorite thing.
I love that.
Okay,
I love that.
One of, I think the main things that's super important in this recipe is actually using a sharp cheddar cheese. We want that sharp cheddar flavor because we're adding milk, we're adding the butter, so we lose a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And if you go mild, you're gonna lose it completely.
Okay.
It's actually like when I tell people to use dark chocolate chips in their buttercream versus a milk chocolate, because once you have the butter and the sugar and all the things,
it softens it.
It softens the flavor. So don't be afraid of those stronger
pull
flavors
cakes in there.
You know,
we knew she would. We were making mac and cheese, and suddenly we're talking about buttercream. It just comes out of her.
It just happens so naturally. Now we want this to be a little thicker, but I'm going to show you kind of how this cheese just ends up melting right into here.
It looks amazing.
And it's going to, by the time it thickens with the milk and the flour in there, It's gonna be a little bit more pudding-like.
Okay.
So you'll notice that it gets pretty thick. And then the last thing you do is you add your cheese. That's gonna melt. And then for seasoning, I just do a little pepper and salt. That is just all my kids' needs. The original recipe actually has, let's say it right, Worcester? Worcester sauce.
Too much.
And a little mustard.
Yeah.
And like I said, depending on the palate of the kids at your house, that may not be their jam, and at our house, it's not. So we go super simple.
Thank you for sharing Mom's mac and cheese, Mom's mac and ham and cheese. I'm gonna try that. I think that's really fun. And I'm so glad to see your flour. We haven't had a chance to celebrate this with you. This is exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we just launched Cake Flour. It's a collaboration with Lehigh Mills, a local company, which I use their all-purpose all the time. The quality and the flavor. I did all my taste testing. We just nailed it, and it's a 5-pound bag, which you really can't find anywhere. You'll get these little boxes. We're gonna make at least 7 cakes out of that bag.
Amazing.
And most of the recipes in my book actually use cake flour. So
where do we get that?
Okay, it's gonna be on my website, shop.cakebycourtney.com, lehighmills.com, or their store in Lehigh. You can go in and grab it.
What a cool collaboration. A legacy brand, your amazing brand coming together.
Thank you.
We'll call you a legacy brand too. No, you're not old, but you know what I mean. Thank you so much. Mom's mac and cheese recipe on our website, studio5.ksl.com. Hey.